Hey, hey.
Song cheers me up every time.
It really, it's a key component to our mental health.
Plus, happy Friday, right?
Happy Containers from the Couch Friday.
You guys get a long weekend like every week. Is that how this works now?
No, just we have to do the rest of our job all in one day.
Exactly. So it's real fun. We condense 4 days into one, which is Friday.
Right.
And then do this show, Anyway, you get it. It's pretty straightforward and clear. So welcome to the show today, folks. If you've been with us all week, I would say this is like we've been recapping all of the announcements from the Container Day, pre-KubeCon Europe.
Yeah, day zero.
Yeah, thank you, day zero. And we had Justin Garrison on, and he, of course, did some really great stuff with some great props. And from what I understand today, Jesse's going to show us manage Nodegroups, and he's going to show it by doing this all while driving a Tesla on autopilot as his prop. Is that correct?
That's my prop. Yeah, I'm in there now. There's an iPad on the dash. It's it's really okay. So it's just my daughter's Honda Civic with an iPad duct taped to the dashboard, but it feels like a Tesla.
That's all that matters.
That's right.
And I'm going down the road right now.
It's perfect. I mean, the green screen is perfect. Anyway, so yeah, I kind of gave it away. We are going to talk about yes. Oh, and Brent is wearing a Datadog t-shirt. So we did it earlier in the week where we said, how many CoreOS shirts do you have? And I think we determined, Jesse, you said you had 3.
I have 3, yeah.
Brent, you said you only have 1?
I only have 1, yeah.
I had 3. Now, how many Datadog shirts do you have?
Well, I mean, formerly at conferences, they are so aggressive at putting a t-shirt in your hand that I'm just like, yeah, I think I might have 17 of the same Datadog t-shirt.
It's all the same shirt. Yeah, I do too. My kids have them. My wife has a couple.
Yes.
Yep. And we love Datadog. So
and they're a great partner, by the way.
They worked, yeah.
Yeah. And they are, again, super soft. The more you wash them, the softer they get. So, yeah, I mean, I throw out a lot of conference t-shirts, but I think I still have like all 17 of my Datadog t-shirts.
Yes. It's a great observability platform and a great t-shirt.
That's right.
What more do you want? I am too, like, all of my stuff is just falling over today. Nothing is working right. So I'm like about 4.5 inches from my camera and you can't see my shirt, but it is a Monktoberfest shirt.
Oh, nice.
It was the top of the pile, but I was kind of looking for I have a .cloud shirt that Jerome gave me years ago, but I couldn't find it. So I thought that was pretty good, like vintage tech swag.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
I do try to cycle my tech swag, pretty quickly because I used to go to a lot of conferences and that sort of thing. And by the way, did you guys ever get into collecting socks? You know how there was this sort of shift to handing out socks? Man, what a waste these days, because like I don't think I've worn socks in like 3 months.
Right. I was just gonna say shoes, socks. I don't wear those.
Yeah.
Like my best footwear is now flip-flops. That's when I want to be fancy and actually put shoes on.
Exactly. And even then it's a rare occurrence,
Totally.
But the socks were cool. And I think I have a pair of Deus socks, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, those are some cool ones.
I have some Worker ones. You guys remember Worker? Yep. And
No.
And then Weave. I have Weave. So Worker was like an early CI/CD automation pipeline.
Makes sense. Good name.
Thing. I don't know, but they were one of the first socks I saw. And
I bet they'll do well.
I had some Weave ones. Okay.
Well, ooh, Wari, I like this. Wari 21. We need some containers from the couch shirts. Brent.
Yeah. All right. I'm on it. I'm on it. We're gonna make that happen.
Good call.
For all of our regulars, we will figure out a way to send them out to you too.
And I can see some giveaways. Yeah.
Putting it out there. It's going to happen no matter what.
For sure.
Okay. I like this. Anyways, enough talk about t-shirts. Like t-shirts are cool, and I feel like we could spend the whole hour talking about all our conference shirts. But what we should talk about is managed node groups and EKS.
Okay, take it away.
So I was just thinking about this. You know how managed node groups are great because what do they do for us? They allow the control plane to manage the life cycle of the node group. But you know what's missing though is what if I want to provide my own AMI? Like I feel like I should be able to do that. What do you think, Jesse?
You can do that now. Thanks for the setup, Brent. Back to you. Wait, no. Right, no. Yes. So
And
manage node groups. Yeah. So yeah, right. And we'll see you all next week. So managed node groups are great for that, right? Like you have a Kubernetes cluster, which is really the difficulty around that is, or the complexity around that is like setting up the cluster and all the moving parts and etcd and making sure that it's resilient and fault tolerant and that you keep it running. And so EKS can help a lot with that, where you sort of shift all of that operational toil over to AWS, and we build clusters for you and we manage your control planes, and it's scalable and it's resilient and it's really great. And managed node groups are extending that, that what we call the reduction of undifferentiated heavy lifting, right, into the data plane, right, which is where your nodes are. So it's funny, like you have a data plane and a control plane for your application or with app meshes, but with Kubernetes, for us, the control plane is the cluster and all of the moving parts, and then your data plane is actually your nodes. So with managed node groups, the EKS service passes that automation and that responsibility of making sure things are up and running off to AWS for your nodes.
Yeah.
So you can still do the traditional self-managed nodes where you're provisioning your own EC2 instances, and you can use Fargate, of course, which is like serverless containers. That's an entire service that manages all of it. Like you don't even have to worry about nodes at all. You just say, I'm going to run my pods are going to spin up in their own Fargate resources. So that's really great. But if you're in the position where you need to have access to your nodes, maybe you have monitoring software, or maybe you're using some type of daemon set that you need to control, then you're looking at using an EC2 instances, and so in that case you can use managed node groups and get some of that operational toil removed from your teams, because EKS will provision the nodes for you, and there's a lot of automation around lifecycle management. It's great.
Yeah, like doing a rolling AMI replacement. Like when the next AMI comes out,
Exactly.
whether it's your AMI that you've built or the next one that the EKS team has built and you want to move to. Just managing that rollout,
Right.
that update, you can now do it directly from the EKS control plane.
Right.
So,
and managed node groups gave you that right from the beginning with those what we call the EKS optimized Amazon Linux 2 AMIs, which are they map to the version of your cluster and they're automatically provisioned for you. And yeah, so when there's a new version, you just kind of click a button or you make an API call, you use the CLI, and all the magic happens. And that includes, that's not just updating the AMIs, but that includes actually draining the work from your nodes and gracefully cycling them and all of that, so that your application services stay available. So,
which I think is really important to point out, because we've always been able, like if you just think about it as control plane, data plane, there's always been a control plane for EC2 instances. So back before managed node groups, when you bring your own instances, you could always go over and talk to the EC2 control plane and cycle out old instances and bring in new instances. But the problem with that is there's no linkage. There's no intelligence about, is that instance busy right now? Is it doing work right now? Mm-hmm. And so being able to tie it in with the EKS control plane and have that intelligence about, like first let me relocate all the work off of the instance and then get rid of it. That's next level. So that's really what makes managed node groups so special. And you
Yeah.
mentioned Fargate, and I feel like it's worth expanding on that, because I know someone out there is going to ask the question, well, why not just use Fargate? Or when should I use Fargate versus when should I use managed node groups? And for me, tell me if you have a different answer, but for me, the answer to that kind of question is Fargate is great for general compute, and then when you need something special, that's when you'll think about bringing in managed nodes. So you might need a special class or a type of worker node, or you might need some special, like you mentioned, daemon set that you're going to make sure is always on that worker. Those cases, those are highly specialized, and when that is the case for you, I think that's when you think about using managed node groups instead of Fargate.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I think that makes sense. I think it's all there's sort of like these two inverse cones, right? Where you have all the responsibility and all the flexibility, and the further you go, toward less responsibility, you also have less flexibility and less access to where your nodes are. But if you're coming at it the other direction and you want to use Kubernetes, to architect and build your applications and run them, but you aren't necessarily interested in managing nodes. It's not a need. You really don't need that access to the nodes. Then you should be considering Fargate. It's a lot of the same around when you're looking at an orchestration platform and you're just not sure. Like you want to use containers, you need to scale, and you're not really sure what you want to do. ECS might be a better choice, right? Because you're not coming after Kubernetes. You're not saying we're already using Kubernetes or there are reasons to use it. So in the same respect, it's if you really don't need access to your nodes and you're not going to be limited your application's architecture not having access or configuration of your nodes, you should really be looking at Fargate. So yeah, but on the node side of things, that's there's a reason you're doing that. And with managed node groups, so far, there have been a lot of customers that haven't been able to use managed node groups because it's sort of got that opinionated configuration, and it was designed initially for the best out of the box, behavior. So it's using the EKS optimized AMIs, and it's using specific configuration parameters. So that's what this feature is all about, or the set of features in using launch templates and being able to use a launch template to specify your managed node group operations and allowing you to specify custom AMIs in those launch templates. Now you have a world of configuration with managed node groups. So you're sort of right in the middle there. You're able to leverage a lot of the benefits of self-managed nodes where you can build your own AMIs and you can manage them, you can SSH into them, they're right there. But you can also, have EKS do the heavy lifting for you around lifecycle management and provisioning. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So you can have your cake and eat it too.
You can, especially if you're in a Tesla.
Nice.
And so just under the covers, this really high level quick comment, because not a lot of people grok this off the bat. A managed node group is effectively an abstraction for EKS for an EC2 auto scaling group. That's what it is under the covers, right? So when we're talking about introducing launch templates in your definition of managed node group operations, it's really very native. It's very natural. This is how this stuff already works, and it is rock solid. So, and a lot of the patterns that you might have in managing your EC2 instances, or you might even be using launch templates to provision your self-managed nodes, right? So I think it's a pretty natural evolution of the feature.
Let me ask this: is there a situation where you still might want to bring nodes to, bring in a node group that is unmanaged?
Well, so that's interesting. The answer to that question so far has been, well, what do you have around compliance requirements? And do you have really, explicit security requirements? Is your organization aligned on a different distro? maybe you're a Debian house. Maybe you just maybe you need to use rel for some reason. So those have traditionally been the answers for those, right? And there are still some things that we're working on for managed node group customization, including spot instances. So that whole piece of the pie in a launch template is right now not supported with managed node groups, though that is being scoped for future work. Actually,
Nice.
I think it's more accurate to say we're working on it. So yeah, I mean, I think that might be part of it, right? Where
that's
you
a good
just might not
answer.
have exactly what you need, but I would say a lion's share of the reasons that you've not been able to look at managed node groups are now addressed with these features.
I think so, because as I was asking the question, I could not possibly come up with spot instances as an answer. I was thinking there's no reason, but yeah, I mean, you're right. We've eliminated a whole lot, but of reasons to not do this. But yeah, the one that I can still think of is spot, and we're working on that. So
it's literally just work you don't have to do. It doesn't cost anymore, so when you're working with self-managed nodes, you're provisioning EC2 instances in your account, and that's what managed node groups do, right? They provision EC2 instances in your account. So and you can specify exactly how they're configured, your instance types. Tags has been a really big deal. So people have wanted to be able to sort of set tags on a managed node group and have your instances tagged. So you can now tag. So propagation is still being worked on, I think, just as far as getting the nuts and bolts of it. But your tags will now come through in your instances, which is huge, right? Because when you're dealing with a lot of clusters and each cluster has a lot of instances, it gives you an opportunity or an ability to go see where your resources are being consumed.
Yeah, and then
you can
billing
just do something
tags.
as simple as yeah, exactly. You can just do something as simple as a billing tag, and yep.
I mean, yeah, EC2 it tends to be like the number one or number two biggest expense on the bill, and if tags weren't propagating correctly, then it was hard to allocate costs out to, a lot of people allocate costs by project, some by department, but when your first or second biggest expense can't be allocated correctly, then that's a big problem. So glad that's fixed. So I understand you have a demo for us.
Well, I was interested to see that we have no comments and questions so far. So we're either covering this so thoroughly, or
we need to go back to talking about t-shirts.
Yeah, one or the other. Yeah, I can show a few things. I had prepared some demos, but I think in the spirit of the show, I'm sort of just gonna muddle through stuff and sort of beat on it as we go. What are you interested in seeing?
If you're out there, definitely throw your comments into chat, your questions into chat, and we'll work on addressing them. Sorry, techies. I think we're both like hitting the button at the same time. But yeah, Techie Stories is excited to see the demo. I know she's going to be like super security focused, so probably thinking in terms of like baking an AMI and putting, either hardening tools on it or, monitoring software on it. That would be probably in her wheelhouse.
Well, so let's start with that, right? So the idea of a custom AMI, it's like you can specify any AMI or you can build your own AMI, but you don't always have to. So let's look at those two things. So one thing is for enhanced security and things that you might be doing around compliance and whatever, or sort of, maybe there are some specifications you need to meet. You're going to want to build your own AMI. And so for an example I have prepared is using a rel 7 image, because a lot of customers will align on that distro, and then it's also STIG hardened, right? So that gives you a little bit of so that it gives you a checkbox, but it also makes your image vastly more secure, reducing your attack surface. So we can look at that. But then we can also look at making some changes to just the stock AMI that we use, but actually making some changes with the launch template. So let's,
Okay.
I guess, so let's first, let me see, how did I organize this? So yeah, okay. So one of the things that I should explain is that, well, actually, we'll just look at this. So this is launch template data, right? So, and I'm sure this is familiar to people. It has an element in it called user data. And so that user data can take the form of a shell script or cloud init directives, and that will run effectively on the first boot, right? So you can do a lot of different things in here. When you're working with a custom AMI for EKS, what you need to ensure is that the software is in place, Etsy EKS or your container runtime, whatever it's going to be, and that the user data includes that bootstrap for what to run when the node comes up, and so that it can join the cluster. So let's look at sort of all of that in one group of work.
Awesome.
Oops. So the first thing I actually just wanted to show quickly is this. Let me see if I can find this. You guys see my browser? Yeah, okay. I'm like, my whole rig here is weird, so I'm just going to be typing funny and just not generally having a great time here, but we're going to get through it.
I totally get you. By the way, like, because I've relocated, this is my first week in the new place, and yeah, I'm still not set up the way I really want to be, so I'm dealing with issues also.
We're all feeling it. That's good. It's just, yeah.
I'm good here.
So yeah, your hair looks great. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Alex and the other maintainers of this project. So this Amazon EKS Custom AMIs project goes a bit further from the, let me see, from, is that this one? I also forgot I wanted to show this. Yeah, so let me see. So this is the EKS AMI, like the build spec. So this is on GitHub as well. And this is like, if you want some assistance. So first of all, if you want to know how this works under the covers, and then you want some assistance building your own Amazon Linux to optimize for EKS AMI, this is the place to go. And it's going to show you the specification. And then there's actually like a make file in here and some cool tools using Packer to build the image. So this project, which is in AWS samples right here, goes one step further in saying, well, if we have these make files that are driving Packer, we can chuck Ansible into the mix, and we can do a little magic around doing different distros and doing different modifications during the build.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool, right? I mean, it's really what a lot of us would think, oh, we should do this sometime, except they went and did it, which is great. And so this is sort of a quick, like a snapshot of the things that they support right now. And, without getting lost too in the details here, like if you are in this, and you clone this over, and this is what you do. You set your region you want to run in, you give it a VPC ID and a subnet ID to spin up a quick build instance, right? So just give it like a public subnet, and you tell it the Kubernetes version and the build date, which there's instructions on getting that from the public data store. So you can say, this is the version I want, this is the build date I need, and then this is the distro, right? So you have, build, this is an Ubuntu 18.04, I built a Debian image, and here's an example that's, building RHEL 7 based, and then you simply just set the hardening value to Stig. And this is going to build an AMI for you. And yeah, you just sort of kick off, and it goes and does its job.
Is this is the Stig hardening happening via the Ansible pieces?
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically defined, and you can extend this very easily yourself, right? So you can just go in and add, tasks and under all the definitions for, and basically the make file does the smarts of like deciding what gets set, and then, Packer will actually build it for you. So it's pretty
really cool.
So it takes a little time. So I already built one. So yeah, let me see here. I want to just make sure it's the right one. So 7FE8.
And just to add, I know I love Packer. But there is also Ec2 Image Builder, which is something we released like a year ago. I could see something like this wrapping it into a pipeline using a managed
Absolutely.
way of building AMIs.
Right. So that's the thing here, is that you've got to remember, if you're going to a custom AMI, you own making sure that AMI's up to date. So that's going to be part of your workflow, is getting this into a build pipeline and watching for CVEs and making sure that you're patching it, and or just regular updates, right? And so something like this, I mean, you're going to have to build this, or you could just leverage this awesome open source project and use it. But yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
What would be really interesting is if someone, for a dev cluster did a nightly build pipeline where they just took the very latest every single day, built a new AMI, rolled it out to their dev cluster, and then, weekly or whenever necessary, because of a 0 day, they could promote whatever the latest AMI is directly out of that upward into test and production. That would be pretty cool to see.
Right.
And you would always, you would be artifacting the, by virtue of having an AMI, you would never do a yum update or anything like that. So you'd have a static artifact that you would promote the whole way, but it would still be like very, very current. So that's really cool. I like that idea.
So I was thinking about how to do this, because the documentation's pretty thorough. I just did a talk on sort of all the different ways to use this. You can use the CLI, you can use the console, which is really cool. I was actually thinking of just using EKS to create this. And we could do it a lot of different ways. So actually, if anybody in the audience wants to suggest which way to go, we can show different ways. But
while we're waiting on a response on that, Worry21 wants to know, it's off topic, but how do you enable that info bar in your AWS account that shows which account you're logged into at the moment? And I didn't see that. I think it's on your console.
I can speak to that. That's
it's the
that's
Isengard one.
Internal Amazon. Yep. Yeah, that's the way we have a browser plugin.
Yeah, that's right.
To all of our stuff all of our AWS accounts we manage. So sorry, internal thing.
Fancy.
I'm just gonna change this stuff up really quick. So I just lifted this right out of other configuration I had. And I want to make sure that I'm using the right, sorry. I want to make sure that I'm using the right AMI here. I think I said I prepped all this ahead of time, right? But I didn't. Oh yeah. So this is just my Red Hat one. But I think you'll get the idea. I can't talk and type at the same time either. So like just like this live TV thing is just horrible for me. But like
it's awesome.
We're good. All right. So I just want to point this out, because you can go and look at the documentation. You can see how to create a launch template. I showed it. It's sort of like I think a lot of people already know how that works. What's really cool is that EKS Cuddle here doesn't require you to create and define a launch template necessarily. You can just use EKS Cuddle as with the typical workflows, and you can specify a custom AMI, and then the bootstrap can be put right in here, right? Which is pretty cool. But I do want to look at the launch template workflow just so people understand how it works. So we'll put that off to the side for now.
Okay.
So as we were saying, there's this bootstrap thing, right? And this is fairly straightforward on a public cluster. You don't necessarily have to indicate your cert or your endpoint. And this is a public cluster that I created. So if you're working with worker nodes that are on a private subnet, you're going to have to get the cluster and the server endpoint. Let's come back to BottleRocket in just a second. And so this is effectively it. This is your bootstrap script, which is what we're going to run every time. This is the cluster name, so we're going to change that to Veruca. We don't necessarily need this or this, right? Because it's on a public net. So that's your script. It's very simple. And you can also, you can add other things here. You can add kubelet args. You can modify your content in other ways, which we'll talk about in a bit. But that's the basic. And then what you're going to want to do is encode that in base64. Typing on a laptop keyboard, which is just also just not great. So we're going to put that now into a JSON blobbo, right? And what's really cool about this, so this is, and there's a lot of different ways to create your launch template and define it. You can use the console, you can use the CLI. What's really great about using a JSON blob is you can put it in source control, right? As we can talk about in a little bit, you can also version launch templates. So if you put all of your config into source control and you version your launch templates, then you're starting to look at, and also if you version your custom AMIs, right? If you're building them with a build pipeline, then sort of everything is coming from a single source of truth, and you know exactly what you're dealing with at any point in time. It's a really good, this is good scaffolding for those types of practices. So one of the things I want to do here, of course, because I just copied this over, I want to make sure that I have the right SG. So I guess the quickest way to do that is just to look at one of these. We can just look at one of these instances. Because I just spun these clusters up because my other clusters kind of ate themselves. So like literally as we were talking, they were finishing building. So let's, oh, wrong instance.
And so we're just looking for the security group.
Yeah, so this is the cluster security group right here. And we're going to have to define that. EKS, management groups will actually define that by default, unless we start specifying our own, security groups. So we don't necessarily have to do this, but it's good practice.
It's also probably it might also be worth pointing out that most nodes end up with 2 security groups, and one is for the whole cluster. That's this one that we're looking at, and then the other one is for the node group. And so if you're following along in your own account, don't grab that one. Grab the one that's for the whole cluster.
Right, or what we call the cluster security group. Exactly.
Yeah.
So this AMI right here. Sorry, I'm mostly paying attention. I really can't type and think at the same time.
That's totally fine. I'm the same way. I can't multitask.
I've been typing for a living for a long time, but I still can't do it.
What's funny is my laptop now can't multitask either. I think it's been around me too long. So like when I try and type a message in chat, my video freezes. So what are you gonna do?
I'm starting a GoFundMe to get you a new laptop. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, did my video freeze, by the way?
Yeah, I think it did.
Okay, cool. Well, you guys are frozen too. Is my screen frozen?
It's not. Nope. That's
okay. So the screen's still working. Let's just roll with it. Okay, cool.
Oh, and I think now you're unfreezing. You're thawing.
Oh, excellent. All right. So just, I guess, let me know if something goes wrong. But anyway, so here's the JSON blob for this launch template, right? So we have our bootstrap that we set up, which is very simple. We encoded it and we put it into the JSON, and we're specifying our custom AMI. And so we can, let me see. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna cheat here because I know that I'm just not gonna be able to remember all this stuff. Okay. Actually, hold on just a sec.
No problem. It's funny because we all do this same thing.
Yeah. I'm kind of usually fine, but if I'm on a camera with a light in my face and I'm trying to talk at the same time, just forget it, and I'm just gonna screw it up. So if you're ever interrogating Jesse, then you know. Yeah, you know how to make me talk gibberish. All right, so we specify the cluster, obviously, and the node group name, we'll just call it, oh, for Christmas sake. This is just, this is just normal stuff. So welcome to working with me.
Are these band names, by the way?
Oh, so you know what I called? I called one of them Mike TV because we're on TV, and
Oh.
Veruca is Veruca Salt. It just kind of popped into my head. So
And I thought
Yeah.
I saw Hermione also. So there's like a Harry
yeah, well,
Potter.
I have a whole bunch of them for sure. So it's all the women of Harry Potter, right? It's Hermione and Luna and
Hmm.
Nice.
okay. My browser's now hung. So this is really
Oh, maybe that's why.
You might lose me for a second here.
Maybe let's take a pause for station identification. You reboot, and
It
we'll get
might it
back.
might be what it might be what I have to do.
Or
Yeah.
shift
Because
reload at
everything's
least.
Yeah.
it's frozen. The whole thing's frozen.
Awesome.
All right. I will
All right.
rejoin you momentarily.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Meanwhile,
You
let's
know,
bring back the couch.
I was thinking about the workflow. We talked about Fargate versus managed node groups, and it almost seems like we keep. I think when I think Fargate versus like a managed node group, I really think for me it just comes down to like feature parity. Like, does Fargate is not always. It doesn't always have the latest features that you may have in managing your own nodes in Kubernetes or using a managed node group. So that may be one example, but kind of the workflow. And tell me if you look at it like this, Brent. But
Mhm.
when I approach, operating a cluster, I'm always thinking, can I do this in the least managed way possible? Least managed meaning I'm managing it in the least
There
way
you go.
possible.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I always start with, can Fargate solve this problem? Test it. And the beauty of these environments is like Fargate, you really only pay for what you use. So you spin up your pods, you run them on Fargate, in Fargate, see how it works. And then if there's a feature you're missing or it just doesn't match what you need, then I think the next step is manage node groups to ensure that Jesse, he just messaged me. He's working on it, guys. Folks, he's coming back.
Nice.
Oh man, I don't know. You and
I hope
Jesse,
he
I'm going
comes
to double
back.
GoFundMe here.
I know, right? Yesterday I had very, very similar problems, and man, I feel sorry for him because I don't know, I don't know what else you can do, but something like a reboot.
Yeah. Did you say? I think I've asked you this before. Does your MacBook have a like a DVD-ROM drive in it?
No, is it plastic? White plastic? No, it's not quite that old. I have the generation that's just before the touch bar across the top.
Okay.
So it's kind of old, but it's not super old, I don't know. In the grand scheme of like how old is a house, it's still pretty new, but when it comes to like how old is a Mac, it's a few generations old at this point.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would say Mac years are like dog years. Like
Yeah.
it's every
Yeah, for
7
sure.
years to 1 year. I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
I just need a new one every 3 months.
Immutable MacBooks.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for here.
When it's time to change the oil, just buy a new one.
I love that approach. It's just I don't think it's very feasible from a cost perspective and from an environmental perspective. But
True. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I could always donate the old ones.
that's true. Or you find a use for them. Just have MacBooks everywhere in your house.
Oh yeah, yeah, like a green screen of MacBooks.
Yeah. So what else, Brent? I mean, we're waiting for Jesse here.
Well, to your point about Fargate, I think that the Fargate platform itself is also going to continue to evolve. So one of the themes, if you've been watching this show for any length of time, I think probably one of the subtle themes that you've been able to pick up on is none of this stuff is set in stone. You always need to be reevaluating your position and be okay with with moving from one recommendation to a different one because the times change, and frankly they change pretty fast, almost as fast as MacBooks age. So I think it's really good to you might make an evaluation one day about Fargate or about managed nodes or whatever, and then a few weeks later things are completely different. Now you can customize managed nodes, or now Fargate includes spot pricing, or whatever problem you had with it is suddenly no longer a problem. So it's always good to be evaluating. And frankly, I've said it before, but be able to, go and delete code, even if it's code that you wrote yourself. Just, that idea of deleting infrastructure, deleting code, removing it from your area of responsibility, and pushing it off to someone else's area of responsibility, like AWS. So,
yep. And even like managing your own nodes. There was a question about, can we use the bottle rocket AMI? Like, I think even when it comes to managing your own nodes, I want to try to use something that abstracts as much of the boilerplate as possible. And I think something like Bottle Rocket enables me to do that because it's a secure OS by default. It's built for containers and so on.
Yeah. So Texan Raj asks, can you run a DS on Fargate? Does that mean, what does DS mean? Directory server? What would DS be in this context?
Nintendo DS?
Yeah. DS. Demon Set.
Demon Set.
Yeah.
I said it first. I win.
You're right. So yes and no. You can't run it officially as a daemon set, but whatever you would put into a daemon set, you would instead add it in as a sidecar for your pod. So that's kind of a workaround right now. It's not beautiful, but it is, it is a legit workaround, and we'll probably end up addressing that particular situation in the near future. Glue Scap says that couch is really orange, and thank you. We had it custom dyed to match the Amazon orange, so it was hard to find. We had to look far and wide. I think finally Wayfair.com had it. I'm not sure. So, but yeah,
it's not very comfortable.
No, it's not. That's why we kind of hover above it. But I do like taking naps on it and watching Formula One. So
Formula One, very good. Okay.
Yeah. I'm new to Formula One this year, by the way. Like, I don't know why I've never watched it until this year, but it's pretty awesome.
Formula One's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Is it the most nice? Yeah, Deep Racer F1. So is Formula One the most exclusive sport in the world? Because there's only 20 drivers. So, like, is it? I mean, only 20 slots. Yeah, I can't think of another sport that's more exclusive than that.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, NASCAR, they have like a giant engine and they just put like a piece of aluminum on it, So
what did I leave you guys to talk about?
Oh, hey, Jesse.
So that little hiccup we had turned into an entire hard hang of my laptop, and it wouldn't come back, but it's back now.
Awesome. It's probably better than
talk about
ever.
F1 some more. Yeah.
Erith asks, do you use green screens for your background? And yes, but the wall is real. So, like, this is a legit wall from our office, and we just all happen to use it for consistency's sake. We change it up from time to time. I think yesterday Jesse had a background from The Office, so that was pretty hilarious. Or maybe that was Monday. I can't remember.
That was Monday.
There you go. Stanley in the background. Hey, Stanley.
And I accidentally put my green screen through the dryer, so it's shrunk a little bit. I don't know what happened. I just don't know. I don't know, you guys. I'm trying to put my stuff back together, so.
No problem.
Debatable.
Well, I think we could still. So I guess, while we're just waiting, let's just answer the question: can we use the Bottle Rocket AMI with managed Nodegroups?
Oh, not quite yet. So Bottle Rocket, similar to like CoreOS, it uses a TOML file to inject its configuration. And when we're using launch templates, which I was trying to show you, we use the user data format that's in, that EC2 uses for launch templates. So I've been working on it, and I think we're going to make that work. I also had another, I don't know if I have time now. I had another, a sort of a bridge option, which is to use cry containerd with just the regular AMI. So, but yeah, I think maybe this is good for a follow-up blog post or something, or maybe another visit where I don't lose everything. When will it be available? Like my hacking on that,
or just
that's a
using
good question.
Bottle Rock. I think Techie Stories is very
So
interested
one of
in
the
Bottle
yeah.
Rocket.
So in Bottle, that's what I was gonna say is like I can make something like this available soon, but we are looking at using getting Bottle Rocket first to get to GA, and then also having that as just an option for managed nodes to say, well, you can use Bottle Rocket. Much like you can say, well, let's use we're going to use ARM, for example. Like it would just be one of those, like, so, and you can use Bottle Rocket now. EKS Cuddle does some magic under the covers. So with an EKS Cuddle config, you can set up a node group using the Bottle Rocket family type, and it'll just sort of do the right stuff under the covers. So it is definitely something that you can work with. I'm sure you probably have already kicked the tires. Productized, it's in the future. But I think that this will give us an interesting bridge to that. I just have to figure out how to make it work to speak kind of both the languages.
Nice.
Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, totally. And I think the EKS example, or sorry, EKS control example is actually also kind of a good example of what value EKS control brings to the table, because I hear that question from time to time. Why can't I just use CloudFormation or Terraform or any number of other things? And you absolutely can. We like to show EKS control because it can bake in a lot of very specific functionality that is useful when bringing up an EKS cluster, like turning on control plane logs. That can just be a feature of EKS control, whereas to do it any other way, you have to like make an API call after your CloudFormation is completed, for example. So this is another one where like that user data config is one format in one situation and different format in a different situation. EKS control can sit there and like make the format work for the given situation. And if you were doing it yourself, you would have to come up with a way to do that, like what Jesse's working on. So,
and
cool.
I just wanted to post. This is the blog Jesse wrote on managed node groups with the custom AMI and launch template support. So if you're interested in seeing the blog and kind of going through a walkthrough there, definitely recommend checking that out.
Absolutely.
It's far more polished than what I've done here so far today.
It's all good. This is one of the best parts of doing it live.
All right. Well, let's. Oh, I have to share my screen back. I'm sorry. I just completely forgot that I hadn't even done that yet. Let me see. I'll pick the right one. Oh, the browser just went away on me. Oh my goodness. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yeah. And see you.
So I completely am not making this up. I hit share screen and everything just disappeared, but I could hear you still, which is why I didn't throw a keyboard. And now you're back. So I'm very happy to see you.
Good to see you too.
Let's try share screen again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
This is why I just use Fargate.
for everything.
For everything. For life.
I don't know. I mean, like, how many times have I done this show at this point? Like, I don't understand.
I mean, it's been quite a few.
Today is just terrible. Finally, share screen just came up. Okay, here we go. So I really don't trust that this is going to work out, but let's try it.
Yeah, we'll see.
So I'm sharing now.
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So where'd my terminal go? So here it is. So maybe I can get one demo done. So let's remember what we were doing, right? So we have this JSON blob, which defines a launch template. So what we have to do is create the launch template with it, first of all, which I forgot to do in my holy smokes, everything's blowing up mode. So I'm going to create the launch template, and then we can pass it to in a create node group operation. So let's create launch template. And I use history quite a lot too.
Oh yeah, me too.
So we'll just say MNG custom AMI. So this is, we name this whatever we want, but keep in mind you're creating a first version here. Okay, and so put a version description in and make it something that will make sense to version, right? You don't want to say, name your launch template SSH key, because you might want to actually add some additional layers of configuration later. So, try and keep those abstract. And then, what did we call that? Config custom AMI, right? So that should create our launch template for us, except it's, it didn't. So that's cool. What did I do wrong?
It's bound to be a missing comma. It's always a missing comma.
That's the first thing I looked for.
Because that's always what it is. Oh, it's the additional comma. When it's not the missing comma, it's the additional comma.
Could be that.
Yeah, I think it is.
You think it's that? Yeah. Okay, cool. That was what it was. Great. So now we get a launch template ID and a version, right? Now default version will be used, so we don't have to specify it, but let's go ahead and I'm so scared to type anything. I feel like my whole laptop is just going to implode. So
that's laptop abuse.
So it's fun. It's good times, right? So, and then, yeah, so. Uh-oh.
So you created the launch template, right?
Yes.
That was what just happened there. Okay.
Yeah. So I got to stop typing and talk. Yeah. So
no, that's okay. We can talk while you type.
No. Well, So yeah, I created. Let me see. I created a launch template, and in that launch template, we specified. So in the launch template, we specified the encoded script, which is our bootstrap, and our custom AMI, which is our RHEL 7 Stig hardened AMI that we built. And I'm off screen doing something really quick. So you asked me another question.
Are you going to create a node group next?
I am. I'm going to use that to create a node group.
Perfect.
And I'm yeah, sorry.
Glue scab. I can feel his max CPU temperature from here.
So that's what I was just doing. Is I heard it too, and I just killed a bunch of stuff that had auto started, rebooting back up. So please forgive me. I am here, and I am committed to the program. This laptop is so hot that my palms on it are really hot. Okay, so gotta get back to the right. Gotta get back to the right
baking mode.
Right. So what did I do? Oh, right. I quit out to look at the thing. So let's just cut and paste this again. So we have that, and then we say launch template name equals, and then we had. Yeah, I accidentally cut and pasted something else. Oh my god. Well, let's see where launch templates live, shall we?
Yeah.
Because you want to see? All right, so all your launch templates are going to land in the console, and you'll be able to find them.
In the EC2 console.
Right, so we just created this one. Yeah, in the EC2 console, right. In the sidebar nav, you'll find launch templates. So we just created this one, and you can actually see everything, including our unencoded launch template user data.
Oh, that's cool. Right. Base 64 decodes it for us. That's nice.
And while we're here, we can grab the launch template ID.
And don't put secrets in there. Put your secrets in Secrets Manager.
Yes.
Or somewhere else. That's
good advice.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because of what we just saw. It decodes it in the console.
Yeah.
Guys, I quit. Just quit. Oh my goodness.
It's okay. It's okay.
Wait, well, yeah, but what did I do wrong?
The good news is we don't have anyone coming on after us, so we're going until you get this, Jesse. We are doing this.
Oh, that
until
makes
the
me
end.
feel really great.
AWS EKS create. It's having a problem with the create node group.
Yeah.
Invalid choice. It doesn't like something.
Okay.
Did you
Cool,
misspell
cool.
create node group? Go back up to your command.
No, I don't think so. Cluster name, node group name, subnets. Yeah, no, I don't see anything wrong here.
Like it's having a problem with the create node group option.
You know
Like
what
it's
it might
saying
be?
what?
Hmm. Actually, I don't know. I actually don't know at this point.
What about the name? Does that need to be in quotes? The launch template info? Just curious.
No, it doesn't. No, the only thing that has to go into quotes is the ARN for the node role. I feel like it might be a model thing in my CLI, and I feel like I just need a new job at this point. I swear to God, this was working. This was working just fine before, and
So
now we're
behind
just
the
hitting
scenes,
like just dumb stuff.
behind the scenes, we'll tell everyone that Jesse is like switching back and forth between like beta API, internal APIs, and production external APIs and stuff like that.
That is
So
actually very true. That is
it's-
true. However, that should have worked. Okay, so the only thing we're missing here is fluidity, polish, and a result from the demo. If you can just
Cloud9.
imagine that all happened, you can see how to do this, right? And
Totally.
I think you just might have to have me on again on a day where the moons are not so crossed against me.
I wonder if Thursday is your Monday, and maybe we need to try you out on a Monday.
I think this day is feeling like all of March right now, just
That's
to be
true.
honest.
Yeah.
But no, so I do want to at least say, you know, people were interested in seeing this. I want to say that is the workflow, right? And it is fairly easy. I'm sure everybody, yeah. So I can hear my laptop is just like it's starting to creak. So yeah. But you know, it is a great set of features. There is a talk from Container Days. There is the blog. This stuff definitely works, and it is really rock solid. This was just
let's
one of those
recap.
things that happens. We're live. There you go.
Yeah, let's recap at the very least. So we're talking managed node groups, but we're talking about being able to now customize them. And the reasons you would want to customize them might be because you need some kind of custom AMI from your enterprise requirements or your security requirements. You might want to bake in some of your own software. You might have your own configuration that you have to make sure to include. So why not just use the normal methodology for bringing up EC2 instances? Because you want the ability for the EKS control plane to manage the life cycle of the nodes, because it knows about the life cycle of the work that's running on the nodes. So managed node groups are awesome. Custom managed node groups, even more awesome. And it eliminates nearly all the reasons to not use managed node groups.
Right.
And the remaining reasons we're still working on.
Yeah. Well, so and additionally, very briefly, you can. Oh, are we running out of time? We probably are. You also, with the launch templates in source control, you're able to bring some amount of lifecycle management to your specifications as well, which is really great. So you have this declarative configuration model that we haven't had specifically for managed node groups outside of EKS Cuddle, which is great. So anyway, maybe you have me on again sometime, and
Let's do it.
I'll rent a rack of servers, and I will make sure that. I also live in Maine, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know. So I have fiber, but it's pretty yeah, it's pretty sketch. So
let's plan this. Okay, so one of the things that was asked for that we didn't get to was to do this with Bottle Rocket and EKS
yes,
control. So let's
yes,
just make that the plan. We'll go and we'll like complete this thought, but we'll do it using Bottle Rocket, and that will help us, you know, completely reset.
I love this, and I will make
Cool.
sure that I don't blow up my own clusters 10 minutes before the show.
Nice.
So then I can pre-bake all of my shell script and CLI commands. That'll be great.
And we'll do this next week. Next week, good for you?
Maybe a couple.
Okay,
But
sounds good.
but
We'll watch for
we'll
that.
talk. We'll talk.
We'll tweet about it for you guys out there. Watch for that, and you'll
And techie,
know.
techie stories.
tune in.
I'll bring a recipe for that. I promise.
Nice. All right.
I'll make it
Thanks,
up to you.
everyone. I love this episode. I know it's weird, but this has been one of my favorites so far. So,
Oh, good. Well,
so
I'm just gonna say not so much for me, but thank you for having me as always.
totally understandable. But I think it's amazing. I can't wait to see the views on this after the fact. But definitely tune in on Monday. We won't be here tomorrow, and we will be tweeting about what we'll be talking about on Monday. So watch for that. And until then,